everyone, it is Halloween. Wait, no it's not. It's freaking October. What the hell am I talking about? Why did I say that? I have Halloween on the mind because you're not supposed to see that yet. I'm already messing this up, but I'm going to go with it. I'm going to keep going. I don't give a fuck. Give no fucks. That is my policy. This month is October. This month has Halloween in it, which means that I have obligated to do something scary themed. It has to be horror themed. I had to review a horror game. There's a problem with that. I don't actually have a lot of horror games. I haven't played a hell of a lot of horror games. Horror games have never been my thing. Horror movies have never been my thing. I don't like getting scared. That's something I enjoy. When I get scared, I feel uncomfortable. That's not fun. At least for me. So, I haven't really played a whole lot. But, I went through my game collection. Tried to find as many horror-themed games as I could possibly find. And I found a few. There are a few there. I have played some. I've been trying to play a little bit more of them recently because, you know, some of them are really good games in their own right. So, this month, I will be reviewing a few of them. I don't know how many yet, because I have no idea how much time I'll have this month, but I'm going to try to review as many as I possibly can before the end of this month. So this is going to be a horror review-themed month, you know. You get the idea. A lot of people do this stuff. It's Halloween month. It's October, which is the month of Halloween. You know what I fucking meant. Anyway, this video I'm going to review Silent Hill Shattered Memories. Game's controversial, blah blah blah. It's a horror game, blah blah blah. It falls into the Silent Hill franchise, blah blah blah. It's a great franchise, blah blah blah. I don't feel like going into details. Let's just get into the review. Before I even go into this, I just want to say that once again I've been forced to borrow footage from a playthrough I found on YouTube. Unfortunately, even though I tried to get a PSP emulator working to record the game footage myself, that just didn't happen. So this isn't footage I recorded, and I will be crediting the original producer of the footage in the description of this video. I will also say that this footage comes from the Wii version of this game, while I played the PSP version. As far as I understand, the versions are only different in terms of their graphics, so I don't mind using footage from a different version of what amounts to be the same damn game. Silent Hill Shattered Memories tends to be a bit of a controversial title in the Silent Hill franchise, mainly because it takes the whole genre in a different direction, and it's a reimagining of the original game, which is considered an absolute classic in the horror game genre. I actually first became interested in this game from watching a review of it that basically said the game, while it could be considered good in its own merits, really wasn't Silent Hill and had a lot of problems, like it wasn't scary, blah blah blah, not like all the other Silent Hills, blah blah blah. And you know what? What is it with Silent Hill fans and being so picky about Silent Hill games? It seems like every time a new game is released, they constantly complain about one reason or another. It's not like the old games, it's different, it's not the same anymore, blah 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 blah. You sound like the Sonic fanbase, and believe me, that's not a good thing. I don't like to attack people or bitch people out, but honestly, I'm sick and tired of seeing people constantly comparing the new Silent Hill games to the old ones. Look, I get it. You don't like the new games because they aren't like the old Silent Hill games. Does that make them bad? You know what? No, it doesn't. And Shattered Memories is honestly a really good game in its own right. In fact, you have to understand, the point of the game is that it's not like the original game. It's not supposed to be. It's a reimagining. It's supposed to be different. That was the point when they went into it. They wanted to do something different with a concept they'd already established. And really, there's nothing wrong with that, especially considering it was executed extremely well. Shattered Memories is an extremely good game. Before I get into specifics, I will say the game's presentation is extremely good, especially on the PSP. This is probably one of the best games you can find on the platform, and it looks really good on the Wii as well. I think there's also a version for the PS2, but I haven't really seen too much footage of that one, so I can't say how good it looks. But if it looks good in the PSP, it probably looks good in the PS2 as well, I'd imagine. Sound is also extremely good. The music sounds fantastic and fits the game's mood perfectly. Voice acting is great too, and each character is acted out really well. You'll recognize a lot of them from the original game, as some of them did appear in it. But once again, this is a reimagining, so don't expect them all to act the same. This is a different version of the events that took place in the original Silent Hill game story. Speaking of story, the story is honestly fantastically written. It's one of the most interesting plots I've ever seen in a game. It really does tweak your mind a bit, and you aren't really sure what's going on half the time, or honestly most of the time. Although that does bring up a good point. One of the complaints I hear a lot about this game is that it's not really scary. First of all, I don't agree with that completely on the basis that there are certain parts of this game that might freak some people out. If you have an issue with being chased, or things jumping out at you, or issues with the dark, you might be a little bit scared by this game. But overall, it's probably safe to say it's just not as scary as the original Silent Hill game. And honestly, I don't think it's supposed to be. That's not really the point of this game. It's more like a psychological thriller than anything. So it's less a horror game and more that. So going in, you really should be aware that you aren't in it for a horror experience. And again, like I mentioned, I'm not really into horror games and scary things. So this honestly works a lot better for me as a gamer. The gameplay is actually fantastic and is probably one of the best parts of the game. I can actually control my character, which is phenomenal in a survival horror game. Am I the only one who's never really understood the idea that in a survival horror game you're never allowed to control your character properly? What the fuck is up with that? It feels like every survival horror game I play, the controls fucking suck. It's like they do that on purpose. Here that's not the case. You can control your character extremely fluidly. There's no problems in control on any version. On top of that, it is a puzzle-based game, which is good because honestly, if there's anything that's a huge part of survival horror games, it's the puzzles. And the puzzles in this game are actually really good. There's some really creative puzzles in this game. Although I will say there are some puzzles that completely suck. It's sort of a weird range. You have some really good ones, you have some really bad ones. They never really found anything in the middle. It's either, wow, that was a really great puzzle, or wow, that was a really fucking stupid puzzle. It just works that way. That's probably one of the negative points of the game. Some of the puzzles just aren't that good, and some will just annoy you. I remember this one that takes place in one of the ice worlds, and you have to, like, use these toucan with the colors on its beak, and then get those same colors out of the gumball machine, and then line them up. It was really, really dumb, and I hated it. That was probably one of the worst puzzles, honestly. But truth be told, most of the puzzles aren't like that, and a lot of them are creative and fun to do. You feel accomplished whenever you complete a puzzle. Although, speaking of the ice world, like I mentioned, that's another part of the gameplay. Randomly during the story, you'll be taken to this weird ice world where the environment will change and get covered in ice, and you'll be chased by these strange demonic creatures, sort of fueled by the, I guess, magic behind Silent Hill. It's never really explained what's going on, but you can't fight them. That's not the point. You're supposed to run. I actually think that's a pretty nifty feature, because honestly, you wouldn't try to take on these hordes of demons. If you were a real person, you'd probably run away. Like, really, are you supposed to fight this many of them? No, you're not. And that's the point. You run. And actually, the first time, this is pretty freaky. It's not scary in a way, but it might freak somebody out. And it's pretty interesting to play a game where there's no combat, especially a survival horror game. Although, I will say, this segment does happen a little bit too much in the game. By the, I'd say, 4th or 5th time it happens, the effect starts to wear off and you more become annoyed with it, especially since the segments tend to become longer and longer and drag on, and it's always ice. The ice is symbolic since there's no real mist in this version of Silent Hill, it's snow, and I guess the ice represents something, I'm not really sure what, but it's always ice. Always. Look, the effect wears off after a few times, okay? You become desensitized to it. It was really cool and interesting at first, but like I said, 4th, 5th time, it stops, the effect stops. You stop caring and just want it to be over with. It becomes annoying and a waste of your time. The game also changes, I should say. Let me try to explain. During the game, you will be taken into psychological tests with this psychiatrist who will grade your personal psychological evaluation and give you these psychological tests to determine what kind of person you are. It's actually a pretty interesting concept. The game changes based on how you do the tests. Now, I'm not a psychologist, so I have no idea how the tests work or what the results mean, so I couldn't tell you how to get certain things, but character appearances, character behavior, and the ending will all change based on how you're psychologically evaluated. This can really up the replay value, because suddenly you'll be, so the first time you'll probably be answering these things truthfully, while later you'll just be doing things differently just to see a different result. And it's interesting to see how differently you can affect the story when you start getting yourself evaluated differently psychologically. The whole point of the game is that it's in your head. It's always affecting your mind. It's not necessarily scaring you, but like I said, it's a psychological thriller. It's supposed to tweak your brain and weird you out and confuse you. It's supposed to get into your head and sort of understand what makes you tick. And I think that's kind of an interesting concept. I've never really seen this done in any other game, and it's done really well here. If you ever get the chance to play this game, I strongly recommend that even if you're a fan of the classic Silent Hill games, and you can't really play any of the new ones because you think they all suck, give it a try, and go in with an open mind, because honestly, this is a really good experience, and I think it's definitely worth a try for anyone who's into Silent Hill, into darker plots, into psychological thrillers, or wants to play a game with an interesting story with some nice twists. Anyway, till next time, this is Darkness, and I bid you all a fond farewell.